God spoke to me and said, "You're not going to be a doctor. You're going to be a football coach." And this was my senior year on a yellow bus driving home from Hubbard, Texas. Became the head football coach at Lamarck High School in 2002. Won the state championship in 2003, double overtime against Denton Ryan. And we won it again in 2006 against Waco High.
I'm just curious, what's your take on NIL?
I wrote my thesis when I was at Texas. I wrote a paper on the fact that we needed to compensate and pay players. That was in 1992. I wrote that paper.
Ahead of your time.
I was a grunt. I was as low as you can be on the totem pole. I made $0. They didn't pay me a dime. I volunteered all of my time outside of being a student to coaching and everything behind the scenes, and I didn't get paid anything. I'll win with anybody. I'll win with the worst character kid. I'll win with a criminal. I'll win with a drug addict. I'll win with anybody because I love to win. It's who are you willing to lose with? It's okay to quit. If you're a football player, it's okay to quit for 3 or 4 seconds in between plays.
Disclaimer, the views are the guests alone, not those of the host or sponsors.
Welcome to a new episode of From Boots to Boardroom. I'm your host, Hari Vasudevan, founder and CEO of Cairo AI. Previously, I was the founder and CEO of Think Power Solutions. The show shares entrepreneurial journeys of those who power America. Presenting sponsor for the show is Cairo AI. Digitize work and maximize profits. For more information, visit cairo.ai. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Coach Bryan Erwin. Bryan Erwin is the Corporate Health and Safety Officer for Bobcat Power, a subsidiary of Asplundh. Bobcat Power's primary work is in the transmission and substation construction industry. Bryan has served Bobcat in this capacity for 10 years. Under Bryan's leadership, Bobcat Power has been awarded American Electric Power's Contractor Safety Award of the Year in 2020, 2023, and most recently, 2025. I can tell you from my own personal experience with working with AEP, that's an incredibly proud accomplishment. Prior to entering the construction industry in 2014, Bryan served as a Texas high school head football coach for 20 years. During his time as a head football coach, Erwin led his team to a state championship in 2003 and 2006 and is one of the winningest head football coaches of all time in the state of Texas. Erwin uses his experience as a coach to train, teach, motivate, manage, and care for his employees. Welcome to the show, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Hari?
I'm doing fantastic.
I need to get my wife to read that to me every day.
No, actually, you know what? You know this fully well. I have personal experience of you, with your motivational talks. I was there in 2003 at the AEP Health and Safety Awards, where you guys won the Safety Award of the year. And your speech was so motivational. You know what happened after that? I tried to hire you. And, Scotty stepped up his game and you stayed at Bobcat Power, and, good for you and your family. Things have worked out very well for you and obviously for Scotty. And so congratulations on Bobcat Power's sale to Asplundh. And, I'm so proud of you and your accomplishments, and so proud to know you, honestly.
Thank you. I feel the same way. And through that process, it was so much fun and so incredible. And I wouldn't have even considered something like that I don't think unless it was somebody like you that was passionate, that could communicate their thoughts. You're you're intelligent guy, but your emotional intelligence also is what really struck me, and your leadership and passion for the company. So that was a hard decision back then. I remember those days, but yeah, I stuck with Bobcat, and but I grew so much and learned so much through that experience. And talking to you, and that we've developed this friendship now that we talk, periodically, and it's been incredible. So I thank you for everything you've done for me in my personal and professional career.
No, 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 no. Thank you for those kind words. Honestly, it's a good way to get started on the show, because it's like when people interview for positions, or people, they just lose connections and move on. Whereas one of the things I've tried to do always is to keep in touch with people, right?
Mhm.
Because you never know how things pan out in life, right? In relationships, or the backbone of the success I've had and the relationships I've built over the years, obviously with you, is incredible. So it's great. So let's get started on this beautiful story of yours, right? For the listeners here, give an insight into who Bryan Erwin is, how you got your early life, how you got started. We'll get started with how you got into football,
Yeah,
coaching football, and then
yeah.
eventually into health and safety.
Well, I think it all starts with me just keeping things pretty simple. I'm a small town Texas boy. I'm originally born and raised in Hillsboro, Texas. My family is incredible. My mom and dad are still living. My dad was an incredible father figure for me. My mom was the ultimate. Her name's Martha. She's the ultimate Martha servant. Uh, just incredible people. I had three brothers, so four boys in the Erwin family, and we were pretty feared in the town of Hillsboro. People would come over the house, and they're going to get roughed up pretty good. We played sports, and we were always, it didn't matter what season it was, we were playing sports: baseball, football, basketball. We didn't get much hockey in or anything like that, but we pretended to. But we'd go full contact football in the front yard, and then we'd play baseball in baseball season, and hoop it up. During basketball season, we'd have dirt clod fights. We would have turf wars, between the neighborhoods, just for fun type things. But my family, I would say, really is the first thing that comes to my mind. Just a strong mom and dad, very conservative Christian family. Again, sports were a big part of what I did growing up. Education. My dad was, he was a doctor. He was in family practice physician. Very educated man, very well read man. Really stressed education, but at the same time, he stressed do what you want to do, do what fuels your passion, and go at it with everything you've got. I've got a brother that's a doctor. I've got a brother that's a nurse. I became a football coach, and in a lot of ways, I'm like, man, I wonder if my dad, respects that, because I became a football coach. My older brother became a doctor and followed in his footsteps. But I almost went that route, being a doctor, but I had some injuries in high school that curtailed my playing career, tore my ACL, had a lot of knee surgeries in high school, 3 or 4 different knee surgeries, 2 or 3 different wrist surgeries. And so I had a rough go as a sophomore, junior, senior in high school. But my dad just really stressed the education side of things, and being well rounded. Education is not just math. It's not just science. It's math, science. Um, it's history. It's
Arts,
vocabulary, the
yeah,
art, the English,
music, yeah.
ability to write. Uh, Throw in sports in there, and extracurricular activities, whether it's fine arts or sports, or agriculture, whatever it is. It's about that will, and the will needs to be well rounded. And one weak link in that spoke can really throw things off. You can be the greatest mathematician in the world or the greatest scientist in the world, but if you can't write, if you can't compose an email, if you can't compose a paper and write eloquently, then you're going to have a constraint there.
Yeah.
So we really stressed education. And so that was a non-negotiable in my family. We were going to go to college. We were going to get an education. And then whatever we wanted to do with that from a passion standpoint, go do it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, beautiful. So, so there you go. A very strong family values from Central Texas, Hillsboro, right? So you got started. And how did you get into football, right? How did you get into football coaching, rather, right?
Yeah,
How walk
that's
us through that?
good question, because that was kind of what I was referring to a while ago with all those injuries and things. First, again, my parents, they taught me how to serve. My dad was very he did he gave away a lot of services, and I didn't ask for payment. Just did a ton of stuff for the schools. He was a school board member for 20 years. My mom was a nurse. She didn't nurse much while we were growing up, and then became a nurse after so she's a true servant.
I'm sure she was
Biggest
busy nursing you guys with
example,
broken hands and
yes,
kind of
yeah,
stuff, right?
yeah, just serving, whether she was treating somebody medically or feeding someone. Her greatest gift is the ability to cook and feed. I learned at an early age that you can get to a man's heart real quick through a stomach. And so I still use that when I coached, and even in what my role is now. When we get together, we get our men together, we're going to feed them like kings.
Yeah.
I really believe you feed men. That's what's one aspect of just serving them. But getting back to your question on coaching, I really thought I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. But towards the end of my high school career, when I had these serious knee injuries and the game was literally taken away from me, stripped away from me through multiple knee surgeries, wrist surgeries, things like that. I remember the final injury I sustained as a senior in high school. I made the decision that night on the bus ride home, when I knew my playing career was basically over. God spoke to me and said, "You're not going to be a doctor. You're going to be a football coach." And this was my senior year on a yellow bus driving home from Hubbard, Texas. And I went home that night and I was down because of the injury. And I knew this was the end of my playing career, and it was devastating, very traumatic, actually. But I told my dad, I said, "Dad, God, I'm going to be a football coach. God's leading me that direction." And from that day forward, I put everything I had into becoming a football coach and doing what I needed to coach, and surrounding myself with the people and the systems and the organizations to coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Which year was this?
This was 1987 was my senior year in high school. I actually fought back on this just a little bit. I went to Stephen F. Austin my first 2 years of college, and I went there to try to play. My older brother was playing at Stephen F. Austin, and they had recruited me through the process, and I'd been recruited by Baylor and by Army at West Point, and visited the academy and some other visits. But once I had and sustained the injuries,
Yeah.
and I wasn't able to perform at a high level, then Stephen F. Austin became the next option, and they still wanted me to come try to play and get healthy and all that. And so I went, wasn't able to do it. My body just didn't cooperate at all. So I spent 2 years at Stephen F. Austin, 1988 to 89, and then in 89 I transferred to the University of Texas.
Got it. Got it.
And my
Well, and what
younger
position did you play?
I played quarterback and free safety in high school. I had a passion for playing inside linebacker, and that's probably what I would have played in college, because I got bigger, uh, uh, a little heavier, a little stronger, big bone, and I had the size and the speed to play linebacker. But I played quarterback and free safety in high school.
Got it. Got it. Okay, cool. Awesome. So then you, get into not head football, but you got into high school football coaching after college. Is that right?
Yes,
After UT? Is that right? Or did you
yes.
do,
When
yeah.
I went to UT when my younger brother signed with UT. And so then I transferred to Texas to become a student assistant coach, was a student assistant coach for a couple of years in 89 and 90, and then became a graduate assistant coach 91, 92. as a graduate student at Texas, and then ended up going to SMU in '93 as a GA as well, and continued my graduate work, although I'd already completed one master's program at Texas. And then after the '93 season at SMU, I changed my goals and decided then I wanted to go the high school route and started pursuing that, and went to Irving Nimitz High School in 1994 as an assistant. And then about 6 months later, that spring, was offered the job at Italy High School, Italy, Italy, but we
Yeah.
pronounced it Italy, just south of Waxahachie on I-35, the Italy Gladiators. And I had a little bit of a connection there through my former high school coach and principal, and some other men in my life that were principals, coaches, superintendents, that were men in my life when I was at a young age that really took to liking to me and respected me, and they helped me get this job at a young age. I was 26 years old. I was actually the youngest head football coach in the state of Texas at that time. So that was in 1995 that I got the Italy job.
Nice. And so your two state championships in 2003 and 2006, right?
Yes,
They were won at Italy?
in Lamarck, Texas, down by Galveston. So I coached in Italy for 3 years.
Got it.
I went back to my hometown of Hillsboro in '98, and I was in Hillsboro for 4 years, '98, '99, 2000, 2001. And then in 2002, I got the Lamarck job. Well, again, connection. My high school principal, he became the superintendent at Lamarck High School. He and I had a tremendously close relationship when I was a student, and he mentored me. It was his name is Adrian Johnson, Dr. Adrian Johnson. And he ended up getting the Lamarck job. He said, Bryan, he called me. He said, Bryan, I can get you an interview. I can't get you the job, but I can get you an interview. I would love to see you get the job. You'd be great with these young men down here at Lamarck, but I can't get you the job. You're going to have to earn the job. But I will get you an interview and get you a foot in the door. So he did. Long story short, I won the job and became the head football coach at Lamarck High School in 2002. And Lamarck is the last mainland community you go through before you go across the causeway into Galveston. So it's on the Gulf Coast, just a tradition-rich football program. And
it's a fertile ground for really good football players, I'm sure.
Great
right?
Football players, kids that come out of Galveston. The Galveston County area is just, it's incredible, the amount of athletes. And then plus, Hari, what was really cool is we're right there in one of the petroleum capitals of Texas, Lamarck, Texas City, down in that area, LaPorte, but we were right there on the Gulf Coast, and so many, BP and all the big companies down there from a petroleum standpoint. So it was really neat to see that different type of work ethic and family dynamic. And it was something I really hadn't been around my entire life. And so, those folks truly punched in, punched out every day. And I think that work ethic really carried over to their family dynamic, their household, their kids, the kids that I eventually coached. We were supported 100% by the parents in the school system. No matter what discipline needed to be administered, the parents were behind us 99% of the time. And that's, what I really think it takes in the school business is parents getting behind the teachers and getting behind the administrators and working as one instead of pulling against each other. So just the dynamic, the work ethic, the blue collar mentality, and it was incredible. So we had a really good run. We won the state championship in 2003 in double overtime against Denton Ryan, and we won it again in 2006 against Waco High.
Wow, that's incredible. So tell me this, from your championship runs in 2003 and 2006, any famous players, anyone went on to have a great career into NFL or something? I'm just curious.
Yeah, the Lamarck years, in 2003, we were very, very talented. We had think the number was like 13 signed Division I scholarships. We were
Wow.
very, very talented. Had a number of guys go on to play. Had a linebacker go to SMU. We had a lineman go to Utah. Of course, Rashad Bobineau was a middle linebacker. He ended up playing at the University of Texas. It's a really cool story how he got there. Again, had a player or two go to Texas A&M. Had a player go to Baylor. Sam Houston. So I had my quarterback went to Grambling. So we had a number of players going, but I would say out of that group, none of them made it to the pros. But
Got it.
Rashad Bobineau had a stellar career. Went 16-0 his senior year in high school, and then his freshman year went 15-0. Won the national championship in 2005, and I was able to attend that game. It was a Rose Bowl in Pasadena in 2005 when Texas won the national championship.
Right. The Vince
And
Young.
we got to attend as his guests. His parents couldn't make the trip, so we went in place of his parents,
Yeah.
and got to witness that. And Vince Young and Rashad started at middle linebacker and had a great career.
Very nice. Phenomenal. Incredible. Nobody would forget that game, right? The
Wow.
USC.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. So that's great. So honestly, what stands out to me here at your journey so far is again the relationships, right? Your
Yeah.
high school principal, right? He goes down to Lamar and he gives you an opportunity. You come up with flying colors, right? I think that thread is there from what I've known you throughout your career, right? I mean, we'll kind of
Yes.
go through that. Uh, so since we're talking about football and players and whatnot, I'm just curious, what's your take on NIL? And I mean, it's here to stay, right? What's your take on that?
I wrote my thesis when I was at Texas. I wrote a paper on the fact that we needed to compensate and pay players. That was in 1992. I wrote that paper.
Jeez, ahead of your time.
Yeah, I'd seen back then. Players, they would get some per diem money, but they couldn't have a job
Yeah,
other than in the summertime. In the summertime, they could have a job for 4 to 6 weeks or so. But other than that, they couldn't have a job. So therefore they couldn't make any money. So if their parents had money, then they had money in their pocket. But if their parents did not have money, they had no money in their pocket to go buy a pair of tennis shoes or to go out on Friday night to 6th Street or, whatever they want to do. So they would end up, the ones that didn't have any money, they'd stay on campus, stay in the dorm and get in trouble. And guess who's in the news? The guys that are on campus in the dorm getting in trouble, not the guys that are downtown. So
yeah,
I really believe we need to compensate student athletes. They put in a tremendous amount of time.
yeah,
It's a full-time job. It's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure on top of being a student in college. So I really believe, we need to compensate them, and I'm all for that. I like to see it capped in somehow, some way. The numbers are getting a little bit ridiculous. The transfer portal is where I have the biggest gripe. Is not necessarily the NIL and compensating the guys, because I'm a proponent of that. The transfer portal is what I don't like. Guys being able to jump around, and the lack of loyalty, which is a huge thing of mine. You talked about relationships a while ago. I really
yeah,
believe loyalty it's a gigantic piece of that. We always say, I always have said loyalty is the most important 7-letter word in the English dictionary. And that's part of how we live. That's how I coach. That's how I do health and safety. It's how I do my family. It's the most important 7-letter word in the English dictionary. Loyalty is not just not talking about Hari.
yeah.
It's defending Hari when he comes under attack. And that's
And
what most,
when Hari is not there,
yeah, yes.
to defend himself.
Yes, that's the key when you're not there. And so most people can kind of understand, hey, I shouldn't talk about Hari or anything, but most people don't have the courage and the loyalty to defend him when he comes under attack, when he's not there. So I always try to define everything I try to say in a simple term so that I can understand it. I believe it. And if I believe it, then I can sell it and preach it and communicate it. But if I can't define it in a simple way, then I can't sell it. because my belief system's not there. So that's loyalty for me. And
Yeah.
yes, it's a huge aspect of how we do everything from coaching to health and safety to raising a family.
Yeah. So, and essentially, your thing on the NIL is a good thing. Players need to get paid, but hey, you know what? This transfer portal is kind of getting out of hand. I
It's
actually
out
really,
of hand.
yeah,
Um, I like to see there's some strict parameters on it where, okay, you get one transfer. Um, and if you transfer, you have to sit out a year.
yeah,
Once you graduate, I'm okay with it. Once you graduate and you can transfer, once you become a graduate transfer, I'm okay with that because you've earned that. You've earned that
yeah,
right. But if you transfer in the portal, that's fine. You want to seek compensation elsewhere or go to a different environment, that's okay. But you're going to have to sit out a year. And,
yeah.
and that's going to curb and curtail a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. No, honestly, I actually agree with you that the fact that NIL is a good thing. Honestly, the upcoming national championship game between IU and Miami, I don't think it would have been possible 2, 3 years back, right? You've
No,
got all these guys coming up, and candidly, the Alabamas and the LSUs of the world and Georgia of the world, I really think they haven't figured it out, and they have a slight problem on their hands. Now, I think UT, Texas Tech, and whatnot, I mean, with honestly successful alumni, in A&M and all these guys, right? I think it's going to benefit some of these schools. And listen, the magic of free market at work, right?
that's right. That's
Uh,
right.
that's a good thing at the end of the day, right? In the long
So now
run.
you guys know why Ari and I hit it off so well, and I almost went to work for him because in the interview we talked football for like 99% of the time, and business for 1%.
We're 25 minutes into the interview and we're talking about football. And, I remember the interview you and I had. Obviously, you interviewed us as much as we interviewed you. And you showed the play that defined your family, where the Cowboy Stadium, the AT&T Stadium, your two kids are playing. And, that is the moment. And then I think both of them got injured, unfortunately, after that game, and things like that, right? Is that right?
Yeah, that's kind of part of my story is my two kids getting hurt. It's not part of my story. It's probably why I'm sitting right here today,
Yeah,
and why I ended up changing
that's a
careers. And
great segue. Let's do that actually now.
okay,
So
all right, let's do it.
yeah,
Well,
so how did you get into health and safety? I think we'll talk about that game and what made you change. So
yeah. So when I left Lamar after the '06 state championship season in '07, my wife, my kids, we ended up taking the Flower Mound Marcus job in Flower Mound, Texas. And so, a huge change, different, so I coached at the 2A level, the 3A level, the 4A level, and then Flower Mound being the 5A level. It's 6A now, but 5A was the largest level back then. So it equates to the 6A stuff now. I coached there for 7 years, and I was in my 7th season, or just, I guess, had finished my 7th season in 2013. And in 2012, both of my sons tore their ACL 4 weeks apart. My first son, who was a quarterback, tore his. Then I had to move my younger son. So my oldest son was a junior, my youngest son was a sophomore. Had to move the sophomore son to quarterback. 4 weeks later, he tears his ACL. So I've got both of them on the sideline. It was devastating. It was heartbreaking. You remember the story I told you? I went through the same thing.
yes,
A lot of PTSD,
yeah,
so a ton of PTSD with the injuries, surgeries. Just going into a operating room or surgery room for me is pretty traumatic because it brings back a lot of things. So when I had to hand that surgeon my son twice in 4 weeks for an ACL, and I went through the same thing as a young kid, it really was tough. And it was tough on me. It was tough on my wife. It was tough on my family. It brought back a lot of pain from my previous life. And pain is relevant. We that's one thing I learned through that process. Pain is relevant, and Okay, yeah, torn ACL and your kid's getting hurt in football is not the same as our heroic soldiers and what they do, putting their life on the line, or someone gets sick with cancer or some other type of debilitating disease. No, it's not. But pain is pain, and pain is relevant. And when we feel pain, it's real, no matter what's causing it, whether it's a torn ACL or whether it's cancer or whether it's death. Um, my pain was like incredibly real and hurtful and debilitating. So went through that junior, sophomore. They come back bigger, faster, stronger, going into their senior and junior year. And long story short, my senior quarterback tore his other ACL and LCL on the opposite leg early in the season, week 2 of the season. And it was rough. It was debilitating again. We're going back through it again. His younger brother, they were very, very close, 13 months apart. I remember when my oldest son came off the field, he got hurt, but I didn't know it. We ran the next play. He stayed on the field. He didn't come off the field. And, we ran the next play and he just handed it off. He didn't move his feet. He just handed the ball off. And I'm like, what's going on? He tapped his head, said, Dad, I just need one play. So he runs off the field and runs by me. And I said, Cole, you okay? He said, yeah, Dad, I'm good. I just need one play. All right, good. So I didn't even worry about it. So we keep going. The coaches then radioed down to me and said, you need to go check on Cole. He's back there on the table. Looks like it doesn't look good. So I go back there and the doctors are as white as a sheet of paper sitting in front of me, and my wife's there, and it's not good. It's structurally not sound. And so I go back. I'm trying to process this. I'm trying to continue coaching. My younger son, who's on the field at that time, his younger brother comes running off the field. And he's hurt in it. He's hurt bad in it, and he's crying. And I said, okay, just go finish the half. Let's go finish the half. Let's get to halftime. And so it was very, very traumatic on our family, what we went through there for 2 years. I coached a lot of kids and gave of myself to so many kids, so many families. And yeah, did I look forward to coaching my boys? Yes, I did. And a lot of that got taken away from me, per se. Everything happens for a reason. To this day, I firmly believe that. But back then, it was very painful, very hurtful. We went through a lot as a family, a lot. I went through a lot as a coach trying to deal with that, and the pain and the suffering I went through was incredible. And I'll never forget, after that game, my parents were at every game. They came to all my games as a coach, and then obviously their grandsons are playing, so they were at the game, and we were all down and distraught, and we knew things weren't good, and so I remember my dad coming up to me and consoling me, and I said, Dad, man, I hate this game. I hate
Yeah.
this game. And what it did to me, what it did to now my boys, I hate this game. And those words came out of my mouth. And this is a game that I gave everything for.
Yeah. You loved because you wanted
I
to be.
love.
Yeah.
I worked like a grunt for nothing when I was a student assistant coach. I got a cool story there. Maybe we can come back to, but kind of defines what I think it takes from a work ethic standpoint, a passion standpoint. But I loved it. So we ended up making the playoffs, got beat first or second round that year. I'm at my brother-in-law's house, Scott Yoakum, who owns Bobcat, who owned Bobcat. We're cooking steaks the night before Thanksgiving. He said, hey, you ever thought about getting out of coaching? And I said, no, I don't know how to do anything else. All I know how to do is coach. I'm not good at anything else. And he said, no, you can be good at something else. He said, you're a great manager. You're a great motivator. You're a great teacher, trainer, and all that. And he said, you ever thought about, would you consider coming to work for me in construction industry, utility construction industry? I'm like, I don't know anything about that. And he said, well, I can teach you the business. I can't teach you what you already know, which is the management side of things. And I thought about it, prayed about it for a month or so. In the middle of the night in December of that year, about a month after Thanksgiving, I woke up in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m., tapped my wife on the shoulder, who's the sister of Scott, and said, hey, I'm going to resign today. Let's do this. And she was all for it. She wanted me. She saw the stress, the pressure. I'd been doing it since I was 26 years old. And you can't, you go on vacations and all I'm thinking about are my players and my program. I can't disconnect. I just couldn't disconnect from work when I was coaching. And so anyway, that's the story how I ended up probably burning out of coaching and transitioning and getting the opportunity to go into the utility construction industry.
Yeah, no, it's a really heartwarming story, right? It's tough, but it's a very authentic, raw story of how you got into the utility industry. But before we get into your utility industry's, journey, let's talk about that beautiful story, the work ethic that really helped you. I mean, what you learned as a graduate assistant. Let's do that.
When it comes down to it, this as well as anybody, it comes down to work ethic, passion, um, being unique, being different, taking risk, uh, doing things for if you've got to get the job and it's going to pay you zero, but that job's going to get you here, then you take the job
Yeah.
and you do the job. And so one of the proudest moments of my career that I can look back on, and I shared this with players, I shared this with coaches, I try to share as much as I can. I was a student assistant at Texas. I was a grunt. I was as low as you can be on the totem pole. I made $0. They didn't pay me a dime. I volunteered all of my time outside of being a student to coaching and everything behind the scenes. And I didn't get paid anything. I just was able to work with the defensive line, work with the defensive line coach, learn from him, be a part of the Texas program, had a job day in, day out, had a job on Saturday afternoons during the games as well. So we're going to play Arkansas. It's 1989. We're going to Fayetteville. It was Little Rock. Back then they played in both places. I think we were going to Little Rock. And I'm on the bus.
You're talking about Razorbacks here.
Razorbacks, Arkansas Razorbacks, 1989. We're going to travel out there to go play them. And I'm on the bus. We're getting ready. We're on the bus going to the airport to fly to Little Rock to play the Arkansas Razorbacks. And I'm on the bus, on the chartered bus, fixed to make the trip. We got all our bags loaded. I just got seated, and I get tapped on the shoulder, and someone says, "Hey, Coach McWilliams wants to see you off the bus just for a second." Okay, so I jump off the bus for a second, step down the steps, and he puts his shoulders on me and say, "Bryan, we've had an alumni that's just got added to this trip, to the travel group. We don't have a seat for you on the airplane. So you're not going to be able to make the trip with the team." I'm like, "Coach, I've got a job. I've got a job. Now, granted, I'm a student assistant. I'm a grunt. I'm a nobody." I'm like, "Coach, I've got a job to do." And he said, I know, Bryan, I hate it." And he was the greatest man in the world, very humble, very caring. And I just, my head was down. My eyes were sad. He basically kicked me off the bus and told me I couldn't fly on the airplane.
Literally kicked you off the bus.
Yeah. And I'm like, "What I do, what I do now?" And he said, "Hey, Bryan, if you want to go, the U-Haul bus," back then we didn't have these nice equipment buses that they have now, these semi trucks where you see Texas Longhorns plastered across, SMU plastered. We took U-Haul, we rented U-Haul trucks to take the equipment to the games, all the helmets, all the shoulder pads, everything. He said, "If you want to go to the game, the equipment U-Haul van has not left yet. It's back there behind Newhouse Royal. And if you want to go tell Big Larry you want to ride and jump in the U-Haul bus." I grab all my stuff. I grab my luggage. I grab my briefcase, and I run to the back of Newhouse Royal. And they're shutting the doors. They're coming out. And I say, "Larry, I need a ride. I need to ride to Little Rock." And I'm telling you, Larry's driving the van. Mark Cousins is on the passenger side, who is the head, or I'm not sure if he still is, but he was the head of the UIL and became the head of the University Interscholastic League. And I'm sitting in the middle. It's a stick shift U-Haul equipment van. And I'm sitting in the middle, and we take off and we drive all night.
So essentially,
all day,
stick shift sitting in the middle is hard because you got the stick.
Right, I'm actually changing the gears for him, sometimes. So, I had to be at the game. And so I would have crawled there, but it's how you respond. We talk to people all the time about it. Success in life is not about what happens to you. It's about how you respond to what happens to you. 90% of your success in life is how we respond. And we got to respond the right way. The whole E plus R equals O, Tim Kite, and I'm a huge proponent of that. You have an event that happens to you. You got to determine what outcome you want. Well, whatever outcome you want, that response that you give will determine the outcome that you want. If my response would have been, I'm just mad, I'm peed off, I'm calling my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and telling her to come get me, and I'm just going to hang out at the apartment all weekend, and I'll watch the game on TV, But no, I responded because I wanted to be at that game. That was the only way I was going to get to that game and do my job.
Yeah.
So, jumped on the U-Haul and then after the game, what happened? The team flies back. They're back home in 2 hours, and I drive all night. And my now wife, she comes and picks me up behind Newhouse Royal at like 4 a.m. because that's when we got in. And it's just doing the things you've got to do and sacrificing to do what you got to do and putting your pride away, killing your pride, and just being willing to respond the right way to get the outcome that you want.
Yeah,
I knew I was was I embarrassed? All the other guys that were, graduate assistants and guys that were like my age that flew on the plane, and then when I showed up, there's Bryan. He had to ride the U-Haul bus up there, and it hurts your pride, but you swallow that. You do what you got to do. You know what your goals are, and you know where you want to be in the end, and you do what you got to do.
It's perseverance at the end of the day. You had a long-term goal, and you had to take a path to get there, and
perseverance and just overcoming
tenacity and whatnot, right? I mean, honestly, when the coach kicked you off the bus, you could have done a lot of different things, right? You could have,
I could have quit,
you could have mopped. You could have simply said, "I'm done with this job because it ain't paying nothing." You could have, you could have gone back to your room, whatever, and watch TV, whatever the hell you wanted to do, right? But here you are trying to figure out a way to get back to that game, and because you loved it so much, and you had a goal of becoming a head football coach one day, right?
And I think little bitty things like that pay off in life. I really do.
E plus R equals O. And actually, one of the key things, honestly, what you say also really resonates well with me, because a lot of times you are in a job in your career which doesn't pay a whole lot, but it's a stepping stone to something that you have a long-term goal. And I've had many such jobs, right, where doesn't really pay well, but you know what, I'm developing relationships which in the long run is going to be enormously beneficial, and you stick with it, right? In the long run, it really pays off. It's delayed gratification, right? At the end of the day, if you want instant gratification, you can't put up with all those kind of things, right? So
it's funny, I've got those two words somewhere in my notes, and as we were talking over the last week or so about some of the things we might be talking about, I jotted down, a couple of ideas, and those two words are somewhere on my paper, delayed gratification. So that's, you're exactly right.
Yeah, 100%. So let's 42 minutes into it, we might have to do one more show here. But let's wrap up football before we get into safety now, right? So your expertise, right? There are different types of coaches. Obviously, you got a John Harbaugh, as we record today on Jan 15th. Apparently, he's going to be the head football coach of the New York Giants. News just flashed, right? He's a special teams guy. You got a Mike Tomlin kind of guy, or Mike McDonald, who's defensive coordinator, and then you got the Sean McVays and the Matt LaFleur's, who are the offensive guys, right? Where would you put yourself in, or are you Steve Sarkisian, or are you on the defensive side, or are you a special teams guy?
I've stayed pretty involved in all of it. Same way have done health and safety from day one when I was the only guy. So if it was going to get done, I had to know how to do it all, incident reports to new hire training to, OSHA reporting to, whatever it was, client and customer requirements. So in football is the same way. I was neck deep in all three phases of the game. I was neck deep in strength and conditioning. I was neck deep in nutrition. I was neck deep in motivational tactics, and the best way to motivate young men. But I'm kind of old school. When it comes down to it, I like the Nick Saban style, Nick Saban approach of, hard nosed yet developing relationships, having a system in place, being process oriented. We talked all the time about, on Monday, you don't worry about winning. On Tuesday, you don't talk about winning. On Wednesday, you're not worried about winning. You do what Monday requires. You do what Tuesday requires. You do what Wednesday requires. You worry about winning on game day. That's when we're going to go win the game. But up until then, you're preparing to win. You're processing to win. And winning is a byproduct of doing the right things day in and day out. It's like health and safety. I mean, we don't want guys getting hurt, but I'm not going to sit around all day worried about guys getting hurt. I want to sit around all day making sure our guys are doing observations and good catches and inspections and audits and weekly safety meetings and all the things that we do from a process. That will be the byproduct of that will get us the outcome that we want.
Got it.
So to answer your question, football wise, I would say I don't know those guys well. I do like I like Harbaugh. I like his style, his approach, but probably more of a Nick Saban comes to mind first. Just hard nosed, disciplined, process oriented. The standard is the standard, and we're not deviating.
Yeah, you're not deviating a standard just because you want to have a superstar on your team or something like that, right? So,
Yeah, well, a great philosophy I had towards the middle of my career was, because you mentioned the word superstar and things, and I know coaches deal with this a lot, but my belief system became, it's not about who I'm willing to win with, because Harry, I'll win with anybody. I'll win with the worst character kid. I'll win with a criminal. I'll win with a drug addict. I'll win with anybody, because I love to win. It's who are you willing to lose with? That's what I always pose to myself and my coaches is it's not about who we're willing to win with, because we'll win with anybody. But when you lose the battle, you lose the game, and you have to reflect on it and analyze and debrief. Who are you willing to lose with? Because if you knew going into it, man, this guy is going to cost me a game, or this guy's going to cost me a job or a customer or a life, I knew it. The leading indicators were there the whole time. The flags were there the whole time. So when I lay my head on the pillow, it's not about who I'm willing to win with. It's who I'm willing to lose with.
Interesting. That's actually a really good way to look at things, right? So, all right. So now we're into EHS, right? 20 years as a high school football coach, super successful, obviously, winningest football coach in high school in the state of Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go into Bobcat Power. Scotty's an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. Nothing wrong about entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are great. We're the ones who actually move American economy, right?
Yeah.
But we're not good at a lot of things, right? We kind of, in many ways, a little disorganized because we're going at a very rapid pace. So tell me this, now that Bobcat Power has been sold a couple of times, beautiful success story, right? How was it on day one when you stepped in? Challenges that you faced, the structure that you had to put in place to really make Bobcat what it is today? Because, the construction space, let's be honest, got so many moving parts out there. One small mistake, really, the company can collapse, right?
Yes.
I've had that situation personally. I think I may have shared with you where we had this incident when I was running Think Power back in 2018 or so, with Entergy, and there was a fatality, unfortunately, on the contractor side, and it really cost the company dearly. I mean, the company fought for its life, so to speak, right? So tell me this from your experience. How was it on day one?
On day one, I didn't know much. And I actually started out on the operations side when Scotty hired me. I'd done some things as a kid, some civil things, some municipal water lines, sewer lines, storm drain, construction things, and so I had a decent understanding of some of that, not necessarily the electrical side of things. But so I started out as a project manager, and really didn't know much, but just my tactic was I needed to use I have God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and I try to use that in that ratio. Listen twice as much as we talk. So I had to do a lot of listening, a lot of watching, a lot of observation. It doesn't cost anything to pay attention, right? So we've got to observe, we've got to pay attention, listen, see, and speak less. And so I did that. I would literally get up every morning and pray, God, just give me today my daily bread. Give me today the wisdom I need to do what I need to do. Um, a funny story, I've told this a gazillion times early on in that process when I was project managing, and I'm dealing with other project managers from the customer. I'm dealing with engineers. I'm dealing with, learning as I go. And I didn't have a lot of answers early on. Um, so I knew that if a certain guy called or a certain engineer called or a certain project manager called from customer, and I might not have the answer and I knew we might have a problem, I would just let it go to voicemail. And they would leave the message on the voicemail of the issue or the problem at hand. And great. I'm going to go research it. I'm going to go get the answer. I'm going to go talk to who I need to talk to. And then I'm going to give them a call back and I'm going to say, here's the solution. Oh, here's what we're going to do. And here's how we're going to respond to this. So again, just taking it one day at a time and really listening twice as much as I talked,
Yeah.
trying to learn,
So you're
using
so
time.
you're back to being literally a graduate assistant. Of course, you're getting paid, but
I'm back.
you're
Yeah.
learning something absolutely brand new to you.
I said this. I spoke at a banquet not long a couple years into this, and I went back. One of my former coaches asked me to come speak, and I said, it was very humbling because I went from being what I felt like was one of the best in the world at what I did to I'm like the worst in the world at what I'm doing.
Yeah. That's
Day
really hard. That's
day
really,
one,
really hard. Yeah.
yeah, and that's the way I processed it. I'm like, I was a great football coach. And right now I'm a poor project manager, or I'm a poor safety guy. And so it's very humbling. So you have to start, like you said, from ground level
Yeah.
and
But
and
let me ask you this, Brian, if I may, right? So, that's one thing it's described now, but at that moment of time, I'm sure mentally it was really, really hard, right?
yeah,
How did you process it? Did you ever think about, man, let me go back to coaching, right? Did I
yeah.
make the wrong decision? Did you second guess yourself?
Oh, there were days where I was like, what am I doing here? And why did I get out of coaching? And um yeah, but I've got that tenacity, I've got that the same perseverance that enabled me not to overreact when Coach McWilliams kicked me off the bus. I use that, and I'm like, I can overcome this. Nothing's going to break me, um, and I'm going to learn this. And through daily prayer and one day at a time and God's wisdom, I'm going to learn how to do this. And this is a huge challenge, and I'm going to stick with it. But yeah, I had moments. I had moments where I tell people all the time, it's okay to want to quit. It's okay to quit. If you're a football player, it's okay to quit for 3 or 4 seconds in between plays. Just don't quit when the ball snapped, you know.
Yeah.
But you're going to have those mental challenges, and so yeah, I fought that.
Yeah.
It was tough. There were days I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I going through this? And I don't know what I'm doing, and I've got to project an image to our employees. I've got to project an image to the customer. I've got to project an image. Scotty knew me, so he knew, I'm going to learn this. It's just going to take me a minute. And I had some strengths in the construction industry. I'd done some things with my hands, but I just didn't know some of these other things. So I just, I had to learn it, and I just saw it as a huge challenge. But it was very humbling. Yes, it was very humbling, and it brought me to my knees, which is a good thing. It brought me to my knees every day. I had to pray, God, give me the strength, give me the wisdom to give me this day my daily bread. And I couldn't worry about tomorrow. I had to get through today.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a beautiful story there, right? So let's, in the line trade, in the construction itself, right? One of the biggest challenges that we face, this is people travel all the time. It's a tough job. You're away from your families almost all the time, right? For weeks at a time, many people, right? So there's a big issue of suicides in the industry. There's a big issue of overdoses in the industry. I did a show with RL in season 1, and he told me that he had done some research, and the divorce rates are super high apparently in the construction industry and the line trade and things like that, right? Just because people are away from families, they don't want to talk about it, right? Because it's very personal, it's very hard. How do you deal with that? What's the tactics or strategies that you use to deal with those? Those are real issues.
Yeah, real issues. And I'm glad we're talking about this, because I didn't know we were going to talk about this. And it's a big topic. This is probably a podcast all in of itself. It's a really, really big topic. I've done a lot of work on this. I tell our guys all the time, every time we meet, every quarter or every Wednesday, I'll share that later with our win call and what we do there from a culture standpoint. But, that I pray for them every day. Every morning I pray for our guys working and traveling safety, because traveling it's just as much of a danger in our industry.
Number one, to be honest, you're right.
It's number one. Yes. Yeah.
People are literally driving with their phones on their face these days.
Yeah.
Right? So it's
and
crazy.
motor vehicle accidents are killing more guys in the construction industry than all the Focus 4, Fatal 4 put together, in this area, in the rural parts of, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma. Driving is the number one killer, way more than electrical and struck by and caught between and falls, all 4 put together. So we spend a lot of time on motor vehicle and distracted driving, but the mental health side of things also, the stat is crazy. 5 times more guys are dying from their own hands than they are from the construction industry on the job. 5 times.
Wow.
It's unnerving. The construction industry, the utility industry, what our guys face, living on the road, isolation, away from their families, stress, pain in their bodies, dealing with pain, and then having to mask that pain then it becomes maybe an opioid problem.
Yeah.
And that adds to the mental health. I've been working on something for a number of years. I've got it put together. I haven't launched it yet. I'm calling it Tougher Than Nails. It's a spiritual based approach to preventing suicide in the construction industry. And it's spiritual based. It's called Tougher Than Nails. And my belief is there's only been one person ever walked this face of this earth that's been tougher than nails. And that Jesus, and dying on the cross and rising from the day, laid down his life for us. And it's a spiritual based approach, because maybe nobody else has the courage to go at it like this, but here's the way I see it, Harvey. Nothing else is working. All this call 988, tap into this resource, tap into this app, have this speaker come speak. It's not working. And so going back to, we're trying to keep people alive. We're trying to keep them from dying by suicide. We don't like saying committing suicide. That term's not, we don't like using that term anymore. It's die by suicide. And so it's a huge topic. It's there's a lot there. I've got a lot of beliefs on it, a lot of things I want to share on it. But at the end of the day, we're having more guys killing themselves than the guys that are dying because of their tools or because of the job. And so that mental health strain and our guys having to work on the road away from their families, in the elements, in the environment, with pain and with pressure and around electricity and around falls, it's tough. And it's tough being, doing all that away from your family, worrying
Without
about
the support system that, you and I have a bad day, we can come and, honestly, talk to your loved ones.
That,
And
that support system is huge. And I actually have that written down. And from a mental health standpoint, from a nutrition standpoint, how are these guys eating? How's that playing into their mental health? We all know how hard it is to eat on the road and take care of your body while you're on the road and you're working and you're in a hotel room or you're in a travel trailer or you're in a man camp. It's real. It's
hard. You don't get
so
healthy food.
I respect these guys. I tell them all they're my heroes. What they do, they're my heroes. And praying for them every day, because I couldn't do it. I can work 20 hours a day. I can work 7 days a week. I can work under a tremendous amount of pressure from the public to the private. I couldn't live on the road. I'm not geared that way. I'm not made that way. And so these guys are my heroes. The stress, the pressure they're under, the mental health, the way it's affecting, the stats don't lie. Suicide is the number one issue when it comes to the construction industry. It's the number one killer. Take away all the OSHA Focus 4, take away driving, it's the number one killer. And we've got to do something. We've got to have a different approach. And my approach is, let's go to our creator. If we want to live, let's go to our creator.
Yeah. No, actually, that's a really good approach. And honestly, if you think about it, right, all the things which you just mentioned, away from families, away from the support system, working in the elements, working with pain in their bodies, right? Because linemen, it's really hard. And then, sometimes to overcome that, obviously, you have these painkillers and progresses to opioids, and that progresses into substance abuse, and you have serious overdose issues and things like that. So this is a real problem. 100%, I agree with you. We need to tackle that. And you know what? I agree. We need to have a separate discussion about it. Maybe you and me and RL and a couple of others, we can do a separate panel podcast on that down the road, right? So it's a super important topic.
In the next part of Bryan Erwin's episode,
our weekly win call at 409, and we know in this industry, brother's keeper is a big term, right? We want to be our brother's keeper. And
in the next part of Bryan's episode, we continue our conversation on building a transparent culture where every good catch matters. Bryan explains his brother's keeper philosophy and why he traded the safety cop mentality for a leadership style centered on care. We also dive into the future of AI and safety, his core belief that no one should sacrifice their life for their livelihood, and a championship-level halftime pep talk for the field. Stay tuned for part 2